Hey, hello everybody, it's John. Today is Tuesday, August 30th. I'm recording this video just to further document all of the obstruction of justice, abuse of power, the ongoing conspiracies and the fruits of those conspiracies that were used against me again and again in Clinton County Family Court since this campaign against me began back in 2012, which was documented by Kristen on several occasions, as we discussed previously in one of her emails. She laid out all of it between what went on back in, I guess it was November 2012 when Kristen got all these fraudulent orders. Anyway, this is on my Chromebook. This is from, I'm going back and pulling out, all of these. This is from 2019. It is a 14-page document. Family Court, State of New York, County of Clinton. Petition for child custody and visitation under Article 6 of the Family Court Act. Docket F0136-1217B, file number 10590. I say to, this is John E. Maiden, the petitioner, against Kristen Carnahan, the respondent, to Keith M. Bruno, Clinton County Family Judge. Now, this is 2019, mind you. This is when I'm still trying to give Keith Bruno every benefit of the doubt in this regard, to be fair and unbiased, and demonstrate that, he's impartial in this matter, and that he would at least respect my rights and the rights of my children. Obviously, this man is the guy behind so much of this shit that has gone on and has kept me from seeing my children. His conspiracy with Lawless and Kristen back at the time. Kristen talks about it. I honestly believe Kristen was taken advantage of by those two, at that time. Anyway, that's another story. Anyway, it says to Keith M. Bruno, Clinton County Judge, I'm the petitioner in the above entitled proceeding, and my mailing address is 376 Margaret Street, Apartment D31. The respondent, Kristen Carnahan, she lives on State Road 22 in Peru, and is the mother of the children named below, Elizabeth, Victoria, and Aurelia, as we've discussed many times before. The children reside with the two of them. Now, remember, this is 2019. In 2018, after having all of the custodial interference and everything that went on in Family Connections in 2017 and 2018, I filed for therapeutic visitation. I was danced around by Lawless through the process and wasted 6 months of my time, and then he once again told me in court that it's a very high bar to deprive somebody of their parental rights, and then he just went ahead and did it anyway. It's really fucked up. Anyway, this says the chronology of events necessitating these actions. Note, these events have been well documented by John Maiden since 2012, but due to judicial bias and misconduct by the Honorable Timothy Lawless, Maiden has been prevented from adjudicating any of this in Clinton County, New York. On June 27, 2010, during the birth of Aurelia J. Maiden at Grandview Hospital in Salyersville, Pennsylvania, Kristen Dupree tested positive for marijuana in the delivery room when a urine specimen was obtained at that time. Bucks County Family Services prevented John Maiden and Kristen Dupree from bringing Aurelia Maiden home until it was determined via blood tests that there was no presence of marijuana in Aurelia's bloodstream. Thank God. It never passed over the placental barrier. It never got into Aurelia's bloodstream. So that was absolutely great news. But this really put Kristen under a lot of pressure, and she never recovered from this. This, was too much for her to take. And then coming home with 3 children, and then a pain in the ass like me at home, wondering what the hell is going on. It was only downhill from there. Anyway, so Bucks County Family Services prevented us from bringing Aurelia home until it was demonstrated by the blood test that there was no marijuana or any other drug in Aurelia's bloodstream, although Kristen tested positive for marijuana and I don't know what else. Kristen was placed under supervision of Bucks County Family Services for evaluation of substance abuse and previous violent altercations and allegations of child abuse observed by neighbors Tina Rutledge, Martin Rutledge, James Cosner, Deborah McGee Cosner, while residing at 4852 Bethlehem Pike in Telford, Pennsylvania. This is all well documented. Her history of violence, threats, drug abuse, alcoholic rampages up and down the street, It's all here. This precipitating event, which went on with the birth of Aurelia, changed the family dynamics irrevocably since Dupree's drug abuse was identified by this test. Number 2, since June 2010, Kristen Dupree then began a slow descent into depression, substance abuse, and domestic violence that has never been addressed since Maiden chose not to press charges for the criminal actions of Dupree. Once Dupree believed that Maiden could obtain primary custody of their 3 young daughters due to her violent, abusive behavior toward him and their children, and then again testing positive for marijuana in, I guess it was April of 2012, Kristen had to get the hell out of Pennsylvania as quickly as possible, so she started manufacturing stuff against me in order to do that, and it's all, just like you see today, none of it's true. This is all products of her addiction and products of her family history of drug abuse and especially alcoholism. I mean, I couldn't believe in the paperwork that Alan Weintraub submitted. There's an affidavit from Kathy Dupree where she talks about her daughter and Ricky Carnahan both being drug addicts. That's Kristen Carnahan, once Kristen Dupree, and Ricky Carnahan both being drug addicts. And she throws that out there like it's, absolutely meant to destroy Kristen. And it will have that effect. There's no doubt about that. I tried to get help for Kristen on many occasions, and this obviously blew it out of the water. But Kathy Dupree is a vicious alcoholic. I mean, for her to sit there and make any claims about somebody's addiction, this person is just an incredible, abusive, angry, spiteful, just passive-aggressive, unbelievable person to deal with when it comes to just about anything that makes any sense. All she wants is her way all the time, and all she's about is money. So, this is all going to sound really familiar. I mean, the kids get taken from one state to the other. My children were taken from Pennsylvania to New York, just as we're taken now from New York down to Alabama. This is all with Kristen's, doing. Kristen is the mastermind behind all of this. She's really smart, like I said, and she's really good at manipulating people, really good at manipulating men, but really good at manipulating people in general. And, now the shit's come to hit the fan. Her grandmother, Beverly, told me years ago to watch out for Kristen, that Kristen would run me over, and she certainly has. When I had the opportunity to get full custody of my daughters and just, leave her, in the dust back in Pennsylvania, I wanted to give her another chance. I thought Kristen still wanted to be an attorney. Our plan was for her to go to law school, and me to stay home and support the girls and to take care of our family life while Kristen pursued a law career. I was excited about that for her. That tells you the kind of idiot I am. But anyway, this is a 14-page document. I mean, I'm going to start skipping around because this is going to take too long. So in November 2011, Bucks County, Pennsylvania, Maiden obtained an order of protection, and Dupree was banned from their home and from having any contact with Elizabeth, Victoria, and Aurelian, who were just 1, 2, and 3 at the time. Yeah, because, Elizabeth Elizabeth turned 4 on March 7th, and then Victoria and Aurelia would have turned 3 and 4 on June 27th. Anyway, when Dupree assaulted John, Maiden made terroristic threats and did thousands of dollars in property damage to our home while in a cocaine and alcohol-induced rage. Dupree stole Maiden's wallet, impersonated him at Wells Fargo Bank, and made illegal use of my credit cards and debit cards to finance her drug habit. Doesn't this sound familiar? This sounds like what Ricky Carnahan just did in Peru. That's why all of this is ringing a bell for me again. This is Kristen's MO, as they say, her modus operandi. And now it's, as I've warned this court about for the last 10 years, it has absolutely terrorized my children. And this is state sanctioned. This is with the knowledge and, how shall I say? Like I said, state sanctioned. I don't know how else, promulgation, whatever you want to say. Fostering, Clinton County Family Court has done this. They're absolutely responsible for keeping me from my children's lives and depriving us of our rights. Back and forth once again. Whew. Dupree Carnahan made false multiple claims of harassment and domestic violence as a basis for protection orders that have stopped me from having visitation with my daughters, Elizabeth, Victoria, and Aurelia. She fled to Plattsburgh and sought jurisdiction from New York State if she could prove that she had resided in New York for 6 months and using false claims of domestic violence to obtain all these default orders of protection, custody, and support. And we talked about those other ones in the past. With the support, the application for child support is where you see perjury, or at least fraud. From that side of it, it looks like fraud. It's perjury in court when, she knowingly makes these statements. Kristen says, that Kristen and I were together for 6 years, from 2007 to 2012, and that our children were born and raised in Pennsylvania, in Montgomery and Bucks County. This at the same time as her mother and Aunt Katie. This is Kathy Dupree and Katie Rock, were committing felony federal and New York State income tax fraud and multiple frauds. I don't know what else they fraudulently filed for at the time. Probably lie heap and all that stuff. Like I said, these people are grifters. That's what Kathy Dupree is good at. So, in June of July 2012, when Dupree learned of my intent to file for custody of my minor daughters and get back my minivan, which Dupree refused to return. This was a 2010 Honda Odyssey, for God's sake. It was like a year old. The protection order and harassment charge were accompanied by threats of violence and phone calls from Richard Carnahan Sr. and someone named Dave, who told me to see about having sex with Kristen, that I would never see my daughters again, and if I showed up in Plattsburgh, they would send me home in a box. How's that sound? Dupree filed false charges against Maiden in 2012 to prevent him from coming to New York to see his daughters, reclaim his minivan, or participate in any custody proceedings in Clinton County because I would have been arrested on the harassment charge and it would have initiated a parole violation. Dupree called my parole agent, Mr. Carroll, and his supervisor, attempting to get me arrested for various false allegations. And parole staff, this is from talking to the Penn Ridge Regional Police Department and the state police. I mean, like I said, for anybody to try to make claims about me, it's just absolutely ridiculous. I was under such scrutiny and so much supervision that anything that would have had to do with me and domestic violence or me and child abuse or me and anything else would certainly have been identified by the Pennsylvania Board of Probation and Parole and these various agencies that I have to deal with again and again. I mean, look, I am not a violent person. If somebody threatens me or threatens my children, I will certainly act accordingly, and people go to the hospital and I go to jail. That's how it works. So what can I say? Let's avoid that at all costs. Anyway, Dupree filed these false charges in 2012 to prevent me from coming to New York. But again, that acronym, CGNY, Crazy Girl from New York, was adopted all the way from parole to the Penn Ridge Regional Police to the New York State Police, because, when they start talking about Kristen, it was convenient to refer to her as CGNY. Anyway, my parole agent just told me to leave her alone. Please note that Kristen sent me, oh my God, when she wants something, she can come on like gangbusters. She sent me so many explicit sexual photos. And I love them. I mean, Kristen's a beautiful girl. But for her to claim something like, she's never seen somebody's dick before is absolutely ridiculous. This is a woman who is promiscuous as hell when she wants something, especially if there's cocaine involved, from what I'm told. Anyway, so my parole agent told me to leave her alone. I once again begged Dupree to stop drinking and subjecting my daughters to her drunken rages. She was a daily blackout drunk when I last saw her. One of the last nights I was with Kristen in Plattsburgh, all the way back in 2012, was maybe a night or two before my birthday. And Kristen refused to stay home with me and the girls and insisted on going out to get hammered. So by around 3:30 in the morning, Kristen is calling me to come and pick her up at Pizza Bono. So by the time I get downtown, I guess Kristen had fallen somewhere, and she was, I guess when they found her, she was in the bathroom, so her jeans and everything were covered with piss. Her pants were down around her knees, and I practically had to carry her out of Pizza Bono that night and get her back up. Now, when we got back home, Kristen then proceeded to fall down the steps that night. This was just craziness all around. And while she's, begging for sex with her boyfriend back in Pennsylvania, it's unbelievable stuff. Anyway, Dupree made false claims that I physically abused my daughter Elizabeth, alleging that I broke her arm in 2012. There's, no proof of that whatsoever. We talked about this many times. The court allowed it to go on. It was investigated in Pennsylvania when it first happened. And you have to ask Kathy Dupree where she was when this happened, because if there was anything about, me being involved in it, they would have heard about it back then. Kathy Dupree was sitting in a bar with Richard Carnahan Sr. and Kristen, because Scruffy gets the shakes in the afternoon. So while I was home doing laundry with the girls and trying to, vacuum and everything and get ready for dinner, when this accident occurred, Kristen was in a bar with her future father-in-law. Anyway, so Richard Carnahan Jr. is a convicted violent felon, well known by Clinton County Court, who, and according to my former attorney Matt Favreau, beats the shit out of women. Matt Favreau will not represent me because of his prior representation of Richard Carnahan in Clinton County. Ricky served 5 years in New York for charges related to domestic violence. This individual is the single greatest threat to me, as his violent history represents. In January 2014, when I traveled to Plattsburgh for child custody and visitation hearings, Carnahan stalked, threatened, and harassed me while I stayed at the Hampton Inn. In January 2014, stating, "Get the hell out of Plattsburgh, there is nothing here for you," in Facebook messages. And coming from somebody like him, an individual with a criminal history of violence and abuse, the implied threat is real. Richard Carnahan is just the latest surrogate to be used by Kristen to further threats against me. Thanks to Dupree, I will not make that mistake again. I have learned to detach my old feelings from her and pursue custody visitation of my girls. Remember, this is in 2019, like I said. I mean, this is now 3 years ago. And I was still pursuing this stuff genuinely, not really realizing the depth of Bruno's involvement at this time until the pandemic hit in 2020, and I had to dig through all of these files again. I wasn't looking for that kind of stuff or that kind of evidence about this, but there it is right in my face. Thank God, and all I can say is thank God that, I learned so much while I was in the United States Air Force working with nuclear weapons, where documentation of everything was absolutely key. So I know how to document my way in, document my way out, up, down, backwards, forwards. I can document everything. And then you're seeing that now. Oh my God. So Ricky Carnahan is just the latest surrogate to be used by Kristen to further threats against me. I must protect myself since threats of aggression come from multiple sources with proven histories of drug and alcohol abuse, violence, and the possession of handguns and other weapons. Scruffy's a former corrections officer. He's a piece of work. Other dangerously violent alcoholic surrogates used by Kristen Carnahan to deliberately threaten my physical safety and well-being include Kristen's father. Steve Dupree said he'd like to put a bullet in my head, but he wants to look me in the eye when he does it. Catherine Dupree, Kristen's mother, is an alcoholic who is Kristen's primary childhood abuser. Catherine is a firm believer in corporal punishment and often hits my daughters when they fail to cooperate with her demands. Now, this creep's not going to get anywhere near my daughters if I have anything to do with it. In multiple incidents, well documented by various agencies, Dupree assaulted, threatened, destroyed property, and terrorized me and my children with her boyfriend Kyle Clemmer and Tim Bile, and some other guy that I never learned his name. I obtained orders of protection, and there were multiple criminal charges pending against Dupree. When Dupree promised to get help, we entered couples counseling, and that settled her down for a few weeks until the Christmas holidays, but I caught her cheating on me and stealing from me again. So when the holidays were over and I dropped the charges, she was back to the same old shit, only she was going to ratchet up the pressure, and she was talking to all these different people about how to go about getting me hung up. And it's not hard to do when you're somebody like me who is a disabled veteran with PTSD, anxiety, and depression. If you call the police and they look me up, they will see what my record is as a disabled veteran and anything else to do with me, and they will absolutely remove me from the scene because of the potential for domestic violence. Nobody's going to be left on the hook for that anymore. All the woman has to do is call on the phone and make some claim that I threatened her, and they will come and remove me from the house for at least the night, and then depending on what the woman says, it can go on further than that. And once Kristen learned that little trick, then all bets were off. So in November 2012, while represented by Keith Bruno, now the presiding judge in this matter, Kristen Dupree obtained a child custody order by default. she got a child support order, but I don't think Bruno represented her in that. I think she did that herself, applying for child support. And an order of protection represented, well, she was represented by Bruno by default. And then Bruno represented her all the way until January of 2014 when I came up here. And I guess the first words that Judge Lawless ever said to me were, "Good morning, Mr. Maiden. Here's your next scheduled court appearance, and the Plattsburgh City Police are here to take you into custody for a harassment charge." So right away I was taken and booked for this harassment charge and taken to the city jail. I got out, on the Oval to city court later that afternoon, and the judge gave me ROR bail, and I headed back to Pennsylvania the next day after that incident with Ricky and Kristen at the Hampton Inn where they stalked me. And there was a lot of crazy stuff that went on that night. That would be a whole story in itself. Anyway, using the identities of Elizabeth, Victoria, and Aurelia to commit federal and New York State income tax fraud and Medicaid fraud, there are multiple counts of insurance fraud, breach of fiduciary trust, forgery, harassment, assault and battery, and multiple terroristic threats directed at John Maiden. The New York State Department of Taxation and Finance is aware of and investigating the tax frauds committed by Dupree and her mother, Catherine Dupree, and Katie Rock from 2008 to 2013, matters that were first identified to Clinton County authorities in 2012. In 2012, Dupree was represented by Keith Bruno in Clinton County Family Court matters. The petitioner, John Maiden, believes and shall demonstrate the gross miscarriage of justice and denial of his basic parental rights since that time. Bruno Lawless, District Attorney Andrew Wiley, the Clinton County Department of Social Services, Clinton County Child Protective Services, and several attorneys appointed to represent Maiden's daughters are complicit in the conspiracy and actions used to defame Maiden and manufacture allegations against him that have been used against him to cover up their failure to protect Maiden's daughters and to threaten Maiden's freedom by these false allegations, while they build a narrative against you that then they can use to ratchet up charges. And if anything else happened with me, Lawless was sitting there waiting to throw the book at me. He wanted to throw me in jail for at least 6 months if I, stepped on a crack while walking down the street or something. Presently, Bruno is the judge assigned to decide these complex matters of domestic violence, fraud, child custody, and visitation. He absolutely fucked this up. I mean, like I said, on the latest scheduling order, there are 20 different docket numbers. And that's because these people are sitting there trying to, tell me that anybody's allowed to come along and make, petitions for custody of my 3 daughters. Like hell they are. You got to get me declared unfit first, and that's never happened. So there's, like I said, if you can go back to any point in time, and there's nobody that'll tell you that I'm a violent person or ever did anything, violent to my children. I don't have any drug charges. I think I had. There's like nothing against me like that. It was all, problems going back to when I was homeless. I'm a disabled veteran, and there was a time that I ended up homeless. I didn't always have enough income to support myself, and my PTSD and the damage to my right leg were out of control. Anyway, we're on 23 minutes now. Anyway, so all these egregious acts by Dupree should disqualify Kristen from any further custodial relationship. Again, I was warning about this 3 years ago, and this was absolutely dismissed with prejudice at the time by Lawless, like they wanted to use it against me at some point. I'm saying that Kristen is a vexatious litigant. She brings up, oh my God. So I've reported this matter to the New York State Judicial Board of Conduct, the New York State Attorney General, the New York State Inspector General, the New York State Bar Association, and all of these agencies failed me, failed my children, failed to take any action. And if they're officers of the court or have anything to do with family court, on one side of their mouth they say that they're interested in the best interest of the children as long as it supports their narrative. But if it doesn't support what they want to say, they completely ignore the best interest thing altogether. And because I'm not the female, I'm not the, at the time, I wasn't 20-something-year-old with the big bad wolf disabled veteran, breathing down. It's ludicrous, but that's what they got away with. So evidence to be presented, there's all these different things. Like I said, this is 14 pages long. I document a chronology of events, pulling out from my files. And these are all, stapled or clipped together individually. Documentation with individual petitions, evidence, submissions, ex parte communications, anything that you can think of. And the next 10 pages are all documented, going from 2017 all the way back to Oh my God, we go all the way back to 2012 and 2010 in this. Like I said, going all the way back to Aurelia's birth. And this is, you know, they were vicious about this one. I mean, they wanted this thing to go away, and they made sure that it didn't go any further. So, like I said, this was dismissed with prejudice. But as you can see, anybody who's going to claim that, like, there was some abandonment issue, or that I hadn't met some causative action because of some previous custody order, like I said, that was signed when I first came up here in 2017, following, you know, 4 different surgeries in 2016, those claims are absolutely meant to defame me, cause me a lot of problems with stress and anxiety at a time when those things manifesting themselves in my body can absolutely bring back the esophageal cancer that I've been, you know, diagnosed with since June of last year. Thank God I've been in remission for 8.5 months, and I'm doing okay. But yeah, these people won't back off. I asked them to leave me alone, and then, you know, this knucklehead attorney for Kathy Dupree and Katie Rock, what's his name, Weinrob, you know, is submitting more stuff. I guess he's getting, at least he's getting billable hours. Wow, look at this. At least he's getting billable hours, right? I mean, you can't fault Weintraub for that. Man, this stuff is crazy. Anyway, I've been talking way too long, but you can see that, you know, on so many levels, I've documented everything. This is very sad for my children. If Elizabeth, Victoria, or Aurelia have a chance to watch this, I don't know what's going on any further than to tell you just to wait. As the 3rd Judicial District Court of Appeals in Albany will have our appeal. Now, my daughter should be aware and should know that their names are associated with an appeal for, you know, custody of my 3 daughters, Elizabeth, Victoria, and Aurelia, and they are named, you know, in that document and the ongoing proceedings in Albany at the 3rd Judicial District. And what a sad state of affairs it is that someone like me, a 100% service-connected disabled veteran of the United States Air Force, has to put up with this nonsense from these people. But like I said, if this is a baseball game, I'd say maybe we're in about the 5th inning here. You know, it's been 10 years. The next couple innings, if I bring in a closer, which Todd Monahan is the closer with that document he put together on the appeal, you know, he could get, you know, the next couple innings done here real fast. But let's see what happens after the Labor Day holiday when this goes back on the docket in Albany. And let's find out a lot of different things. Pay attention to this channel. There's a lot of stuff in the works right now that people should pay attention to. So I love you, Elizabeth. I love you, Victoria. I love you, Aurelia. Hang in there. Be strong. I love you. Bye.